Good afternoon, everyone, and evening. This is the numbers guy, Ron Stoffel, and welcome to our show today. I have two guests with me. On my left is Barb Anderson, and on my right is Walter Hudson.
And this may be done without the parents knowing about it.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up is parents that are out there need to take note of this, because my understanding is what you're saying, Barbara, is that the student or child, all the way down, we're talking about kindergarten through 12th grade here, can tell them that they do not want their parent, either the person that is perceived to have or actually been bullied, or the person doing the bullying, the student, so their parents don't even know about it. And according to the law that I looked at, the school district and these different administrative and bureaucracies are not even allowed to. There's a privacy created there whereby the parents can't find out about it or anything, which again, in my mind, the parents are the first people responsible for their children, not the school, not the state. And as a former parent, and I guess I still am a parent, but outside of the K-12, this disturbs me, and I think should disturb you, other parents, that more and more of your parental rights are being taken away from you without even knowledge of it. So that in my mind is something that I read that really any parent, I think, should be extremely concerned about.
Parents should be outraged by this. Imagine if your child is accused of bullying and you don't find out about it until that child has been forced to go through a reconciliation process or remediation, re-education, and then sent, once they feel they have the proper attitudes, then back into the class. And without parents knowing this is even happening to their child.
Right. And again, hopefully the students will feel comfortable enough to talk, but there are many students and their parents that don't have the best relationship that may feel either guilty or ashamed or shy or many things from the authoritative, because again, parents and administrators are an authoritative figure in their minds. And I'm concerned that some of those may go wacko and coerce them into not telling their parents, even if they have the right to do that. Especially, kindergartners up through third grade, in my mind, don't have the mental or physical capabilities of making those decisions. They're not mature enough.
Well, and it's even more insidious than that, because it's not just taking advantage of whatever natural gap there may be in the parental relationship. It's actually creating that gap. It's conscientiously trying to drive a wedge between the child and the culture of the home. Because what they're driving at is, what do you believe? And they don't care where that belief came from. It could have come from your mom, it could have come from your dad, could have come from your pastor, could have come from your grandparents. But whatever it is, they don't approve of it. That's their target, is to formatively discipline that attitude or value. And this is the language that's in the report. To discipline that out of the child. So, I mean, what you're getting is, you don't know that your kid's been accused. You don't know that they're going through a re-education process. What you do know is that all of a sudden they've come home with a different personality that's been installed in them, like an update to a computer from the school. That's insidious.
Or the state, depending on what you're looking at, if they will abide by all of this stuff. Because I can see, and this kind of goes into the next one item that I want to look at, is the cost that I saw of this has a range, and there's a discrepancy, I guess, between the high end was $50 million a year, and I think that was when they scored the bill, and then it appeared that maybe some rework was done to get it down to $39 million, which still is a big number, which is unfunded. In other words, the state's not picking this money up, or picking this cost up. My understanding is there has to be a person in each of the schools that investigates all of whatever information is brought forward from a teacher, an administrator, a volunteer, all those things. So that's one additional person per school that needs to be, which in my mind, if they're going to be investigative, if they're doing it well, they hopefully have some type of background to do that. We're not picking out a teacher that's an English teacher and turn them into an investigator. Hopefully it's somebody with investigative skills. You know, if that's law enforcement or criminal or whatever, you at least be able to understand that. Two is the training that's necessary for the entire school district and volunteers, because again, volunteers are responsible for reporting if they overhear something, reporting that. And then also my understanding is this doesn't just stay within the four walls of the school. The teachers, the administrators are supposed to monitor social media, Facebook, Twitter, of their students to find out after school if they're doing any of this. So in essence, we're turning our teachers into police officers and monitoring. I can't imagine that administrators, and I know two groups are already against this, if I'm understanding it, is the Association of Superintendents and the Minnesota School Board Administrators have already come out against it. I can't imagine that most teachers that I'm aware of are going to want to do this either, plus the cost of doing this, which we already have screaming every year that we're not funding our schools enough, and now we're throwing another $50 million onto them, spreading it out smallly around all the districts. But I guess, what have you guys heard or seen, and is that fairly accurate of portraying of the costs and some of the things that new, I'll say, duties, for no better word, of our education system?
Well, the cost is estimated at $39 million for 2 years.
Oh, 2 years,
So
biennium.
it's
Okay.
$19.5 million each year. But that's just starting up. You can imagine how that cost is going to grow. That is astronomical when we have school districts that are already cash-strapped, and they have all these different drives so you can get books and pencils for kids, and now we're going to put this burden on the school districts. Yes, you're right about the Minnesota School Board Association and the Superintendent's Association. Principals have been against this because they're concerned they're going to lose volunteers in the school, because the volunteers are going to have to go through all of this required sensitivity training. This is going to be ongoing every year. Anyone who has contact with a student, so that would be your bus drivers as well, will have to go through this training.
We're filming not too far from North Minneapolis. And here in Minnesota, we have one of the worst achievement gaps between white students and students of color in the nation. There are high schools in Minneapolis that are graduating at 50%. And instead of focusing on that, instead of focusing on academics, instead of focusing on the future for children who, I mean, for you to drop out of high school or to not graduate high school, something psychologically has to be going on that you don't even believe that you have a future. You don't believe that it's worth your time to go to school. Why do we care more about whether or not people have the right beliefs, the right values and attitudes as defined by Mark Dayton and his anointed panel of counselors? Why do we care more about that than whether or not children in North Minneapolis are prepared to enter the workforce, ready to go to college, capable of dreaming? I mean, if you really do care about how kids feel, let's address the fact that they don't feel as though they have a future. And that's why they're not finishing high school.
Nope, I would agree. We're about 6 minutes out, so I want to hit two more areas. One we've touched on a little bit is loss of independence and local authority, because again, I would agree, basically in this area, and I think having been involved in school district and stuff, there's more and more being taken away from the independent school districts that we have in Minnesota. I still believe that those three initials in front of each school district mean something. This is another one. Between the federal government and the state government, more and more is being taken away from local control of communities, which is where originally education was and should be done, was through the parents, giving them the community to decide what is need to be taught and what should not be, the discipline and all that stuff. And then also then the laws that we already have state laws. My understanding, because I, again, go to school district, meetings is that each school district is required to have anti-bullying legislation, which, again, the Minnesota School Board Association has a set policy already developed, implemented, and again, my understanding is what you said, Barb, is that over the years, less and less of those reported have come up, so we're doing in the right direction.
That's right.
Not fast enough, and obviously not in the right areas maybe that are coming out now. But maybe those two areas we can talk about for the next few minutes, and then we'll wrap up this section.
Okay. Well, those three letters, ISD, Independent School District, we don't want to turn it to FSD, a federal school district. And that's what's going to happen, because this whole bullying legislation really is coming from the federal government. It's coming from that high, that top down. And we can tell that this is happening when you look at similar legislation that's being introduced in other states with very similar language in it. And you're correct that we have good bullying policies and laws already. In our school district in Okehennepin, we had a very strong anti-bullying policy, bullying prevention. And we were the leader in the state. And even this lawsuit that was brought against our school district, the conclusion and the result of the lawsuit, they found that it wasn't due to bullying, the suicides that were happening, and that the teachers were doing an excellent job of handling the bullying situations. And I really give our teachers a lot of credit. I think they can handle these situations without having to have an investigator in the school district that they have to report to. This becomes a very dangerous situation where, false reporting can go on. I know over in Woodbury, there's a very interesting thing happening over there where they are piloting an app that kids can put on their phones.
Yes, I've heard of that, yes.
So that they can report another student that's bullying and send all this information in. Well, this is going to be used to harass kids.
Right.
And, if they have a issue against one child, they can get back at them by a false bullying report.
Right.
So these are some of the concerns I have there, that we want to keep this local control, independent school districts handling these problems on their own.
Okay.
They can do it.
Walter?
The reason we have public education, anywhere that you've ever, if you look at the history of how we got public education, the justification which people generally agree with is that the health of our democratic processes in this republic is dependent upon an intelligent populace, a literate populace.
Correct.
That knows how to think critically. I agree that that goal is absolutely something that we should strive to achieve. You work against that the more that you apply top-down standards from somewhere like the federal government or even the state government.
Right.
Right.
The more you're applying top-down standards, the less diversity, which is something that we're being told is something we should promote, the less diversity of thought you're going to see in the schools and in education and in what is being discussed and in what is being taught.
Yep.
That is unhealthy for the democratic processes that sustain our republic.
Yep. All right. Well, we're getting close on time, so I want everybody to know that we will have a more in-depth discussion on some of these areas. And we appreciate both of you coming in for the first half here and giving us the foundation for us to go to the next one. Barb, what I'd like to do is, we got a few minutes, is to show and explain what you have there and what your organization has already put out and on your website.
This is a DVD that's on the website, and you can order extra copies of this if you would like through the Minnesota Child Protection League. It's called HF 826 Exposed, and the title here says, Alert, a war is being waged against children. It's a 27-minute video that will show you exactly what is going on with this bullying bill, how the Minnesota Safe and Supportive Schools Act is not safe, it's not supportive, and it is not about bullying. It will get into the real agenda, what is behind this, the political agenda. So it's an excellent video that you can take and share with your neighbors and your friends to help get the word out to stop HF 826.
Great. All right. Well, we are out of time now, so thank you for coming with us and for you watching, and look forward to the second part. Thank you very much.